Okay, so are DSLRs dead? Well, the short answer is no, at least at the time of this recording. Other than the optical viewfinder, ergonomics, and probably budget, tell me, why would you still get a DSLR in 2021, for weddings and event photography? Hit me in the comments below. Alright, well, I'm not here to fire up a debate with DSLRs. We do know they've got a place in the market, and they have a target consumer, depending on the usage as well, the purpose. But I personally believe that, like long-term, like planning for me as a wedding and event photographer, and again, based on my experience already with DSLRs, mirrorless is the way to go, period. Because yeah, I can't recall a company, or like Nikon in particular, making an improvement or announcing a groundbreaking DSLR. Yeah, so when was the last time you hear or there's a recent release of a DSLR, right? You'll see what I mean. Now, the Nikon Z mirrorless camera is my favorite mirrorless series for a number of reasons. And obviously, I've been a Nikon shooter for a long time, and I have Nikon lenses, in my arsenal. Alright guys, so the main reason why I switch over to mirrorless is, number one is portability. As you can see, the size has been reduced, because I used to shoot with a D850. That's a big chunk of a camera. The second feature would be the touch shutter. Okay, so it allows you to have a touch screen, and touch screen to focus, because with these you'll have a lot of focuses. They're all spread onto the frame, whereas DSLRs, they only have it in the center, right? So the technology is improving more and faster in mirrorless cameras because of the firmware as well. Aside from that, is the tilt screen, and that's what that's one of the features I like, is for you to be able to take point of view shots, like weird or extreme angle or perspective, where whereas you don't normally have a way of doing that if you have to put your eyes, looking through the viewfinder. All those features combined, makes this camera the best tool for my job. Now, starting with the Z6, this was my first mirrorless camera, and again, I'm using it to film this video. So it replaced my good old D750. My setup back then was the D850 as the primary, and then so D750 replaced by the Z6. So it now becomes secondary because it has a single slot. So I was surprised that I've been using the Z6 a lot more than the D850. I know it only has one memory card, and I was very skeptical to use it. It is an XQD, which we know that's durable. So what happened was, when I was transferring the file, because I don't want it to wear out, is instead of taking it out of the camera, I used the USB cable and used the camera as the most expensive card reader to transfer all my photos to my MacBook Pro. Now, as a wedding and event photographer, I was pleasantly surprised with my first mirrorless camera. The LCD and the electronic viewfinder, they are all great, especially the high resolution compared to the ones I've seen like in the market. And then so I sold my D850, which I came to realize that this does the job. I started to feel that the D850 is becoming more bulky, too many buttons, and so I ended up getting a Z5 at that time, because I prefer something that small but does have a dual memory card slot. Alright, now, and so the Z5 became my main camera, believe it or not, because of the dual slot. But I discovered a few little things, after a few photo shoots and events. Well, it does have the same ergonomics and button layout as the Z6 or Z6 Mark II, with the exception of the LCD on top, which I rarely use. My shooting style has now changed, from looking through the viewfinder into like looking at the LCD screen, plus the focusing. Because what I like about this is what I see, or what you see is what you get, compared to like a DSLR camera. That's where I usually look for the shutter, the aperture, ISO, and not so much on the top panel. Now, this got the same weather sealing as the Z6. Personally, I never bother. You know, it is a nice feature. There are other couple things, you know, that you might want to consider getting the Z6, but not a big impact for me. One of the big things is the screen resolution, and I'm going to post it on the screen. You know, for some people it may not appeal, but for me, having a Z6 or coming from a Z6 for a long time, plus you know, I use dual camera for events, I would prefer to see the image consistently on the screen for the previews, you know, because they are a little bit different from the Z6 compared to this Z5. So this one has a lower resolution, so it has less contrast and less color, or it does have a color banding when you zoom into the image, so you'll see those images are actually like pixelated. I know it says a JPEG preview at the back of your LCD screen, but again, but there will come that I have to make some changes on the other camera, for example the white balance in Kelvin, to make it you know, consistent with the Z6. But by doing that, you know, that the settings are now different. So yes, this bothers me sometimes. Okay, and again, owning this and having experience with it for a long time, I actually really noticed that's a huge difference for me. Another downside or issue or difference would be the silent photography. You cannot configure silent photography in Z5, at least at the time of this recording, using the custom menus or the function buttons. With the Z6 Mark II, was able to do it. It's not a available feature that you'll find on the Z5, so that means you have to go through the menu or fiddle with the custom menu to enable it. Now, I know what you're saying, don't get me wrong, okay? Z5 is really a great camera. Now, as long as you know its limitation, okay, I've seen a lot of people, like even on YouTube, using Z5 as their main camera. You know, especially for the price point. When I got this, they were like about $2,000 Canadian when they first came out, and right now they're on sale. It's really a good deal if you can buy something that's used, and I'll post some links below. You'll want to constantly check to see if there are used cameras that are available. So yeah, check the links at the description below. Now, I use DX mode if I need to. You can check out my other video for the Nikon Z best settings. And what it does is basically just crops into your photo, just like you know, having an APS-C size camera. So it turns your 35 to like a 50 mil or 85 to about 100-ish millimeter. I've got both cameras with the same settings. So what I did was, Nikon has the ability to save all settings on the card, and then I loaded onto the other cameras. So whatever camera I pick, you know, I've got the same settings, and I'm sure other cameras would have the same versions as well, like other brands. Okay, now, so for photo shoot, what I would usually bring is my 105 mil 1.4 and 50 mil, okay, 1.8. I will still bring the 24-70 if I needed a wide angle shot, but for the most part, I'm gonna stick with, you know, 50, you know, if I could, so that way it doesn't get a lot of distortion. So same is true with weddings, you know, portraits. Now for other events, and depending on the location, you get the best tools, you know, to do the job. I'll mainly use an 85 millimeter and a 24-70, and that's the 2.8 version. And then I'll still gonna carry the 50 mil as a secondary, just in case. So guys, my tip is, if you're getting a secondary camera or a backup camera, get the same exact body. You know, if the price is not an issue, I mean, if you couldn't afford it, try to invest in the same exact body, so that way, you know, like you have the same exact tools to do the job, right? Trust me, you know, you're still gonna be happy with the Z5. Even if the you know, the other cons that I mentioned earlier doesn't bother you. Now, there is the Z6 Mark II. So if you're gonna ask me, should I still get the Z6 in 2021? I would skip it. You know, if you're considering for a Z6 or buying one, I'd say to save for a bit, you know, and and get the Z6 too, especially now that it's on sale, and also you can get them used. Okay, I'll post some links as well at the bottom. Again, that's at the time of this recording, so you have to constantly check the link below. And then my other tip is, if you can get a used equipment as much as you can, because you know, cameras, they tend to depreciate more than lenses. Right now, the Nikon Z mirrorless cameras are somehow new. There's a lot of people that are upgrading, especially from the Z6. So, but again, don't forget to invest more in lenses, okay, versus the cameras. And again, guys, don't forget to upgrade the firmware. You probably want to wait for about maybe a week or so before you upgrade your firmware, just to make sure that, you know, other people have the same, or you know, you're not getting some bugs in there. And again, all these information, you know, in this video, these are just based on my experience, and mostly as a wedding and event photographer. So, and guys, earlier, I'm not trying to say not to buy DSLR cameras, but I'm simply saying to consider a mirrorless, you know, if you are upgrading your cameras. And that's it, guys. I just want to say my thoughts and share some quick reviews and my experience with these cameras, and show you some tips. Now, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and please comment below if you've got questions, so I can post more videos and probably use it on my next topic on my next YouTube video. See you in the next one.